I opened my eyes to the smell of hospital disinfectant and the sound of my mother's voice saying words I'd heard before. The doctors say you'll be fine, sweetheart. Just a little scare. 23 years old, St. Mary's Hospital. The appendectomy that wasn't really an emergency, but that Mom insisted I get just to be safe. I knew these words. I knew this moment because I'd lived it before. I was back. My hands trembled as I touched the IV in my arm, the same one that had been there 12 years ago in my first life. 12 years that I'd just unlived. 12 years of hell that had started in this exact hospital room with my sister's concerned face hovering beside my mother's. "Oh, thank God," Melissa said, squeezing my hand. "You scared us, Jenny." In my first life, I'd thought she meant it. I'd thought my older sister actually cared. I'd been so naive. This time, I saw the calculation in her eyes as they darted to my medical chart hanging at the end of my bed. I watched. Her fingers inched toward it when Mom stepped out to talk to the doctor. I saw her phone emerge from her purse, saw her thumb hovering over the camera, but I was groggy from anesthesia, and even with the knowledge of everything that was coming, I couldn't move fast enough to stop her. The click of her camera shutter was soft, nearly inaudible. She'd just taken the first photo of my medical records, the same ones she would use to commit insurance fraud that would destroy my life. Except this time, I knew. This time, I would make sure she paid for every single thing she'd done to me. Let me back up. Let me tell you how my sister killed me. Not directly. Melissa was too smart for that. She killed me slowly, piece by piece, over 12 years. And it started here, with her photographing my medical records while I was too weak to stop her. In my first life, I didn't know about the photos until it was too late. I didn't know that Melissa had been systematically stealing my medical information, my insurance details, my entire health identity. I didn't know she'd been using them to claim treatments for herself, to inflate her own coverage, to commit fraud on a scale that should have been impossible. I found out 5 years later, when I was denied health insurance because my pre-existing conditions made me uninsurable. Conditions I'd never had, treatments I'd never received, medical debt that wasn't mine. By then, Melissa had gotten treatments for her chronic back pain, expensive ones. She'd had cosmetic procedures. She'd claimed medications, all under my name, using my insurance, leaving me with the bills and the destroyed credit and the medical history that made me untouchable to insurers. When I'd confronted her, she'd laughed. Actually laughed. "Prove it," she'd said. "You think anyone will believe you over me? Mom and Dad trust me. I'm the responsible one. You're the screw-up who can't keep a job." She was right. Our parents had taken her side. They'd called me paranoid, jealous, attention-seeking. They'd said I was making excuses for my own poor life choices. The medical debt had crushed me. The inability to get insurance had meant I couldn't treat my own emerging health issues. When I'd finally gotten diagnosed with the autoimmune disease that had been causing my symptoms for years, it was too late, too advanced, too expensive to treat without insurance. I died at 35, alone in a county hospital, while Melissa lived in a beautiful house with her doctor husband and 2 perfect children. She'd come to my funeral in designer black, dabbing at dry eyes. That should have been the end. Instead, I woke up here, 23 again, in this hospital room, with my entire terrible future spread out before me like a map and the power to change every single mile of it. The door opened and Dr. Reynolds came in with my mother. "Everything went perfectly," he said with a smile. "We'll keep you overnight for observation, but you should be able to go home tomorrow." "Thank you," I managed, my voice rough. Melissa was still standing there, phone hidden, face the picture of sisterly concern, 29 years old in this timeline, already married to David, already pregnant with her first child, already struggling financially because David's residency salary barely covered their apartment in the city, already desperate enough to steal from her little sister. "I'll stay with her tonight," Melissa volunteered. "You should go home and rest, Mom. You've been here since 6 a.m. "Are you sure?" Mom looked between us, her face creased with worry and exhaustion. "Positive." Sisters have to stick together, right, Jenny? I met her eyes and smiled. "Right." If she'd been paying attention, she might have seen something in my expression that should have worried her. But Melissa had never really looked at me. To her, I was just a resource, a means to an end, something to be used. Mom left with promises to call in the morning. Dr. Reynolds finished his notes and departed. The nurse adjusted my IV and dimmed the lights, and then it was just me and Melissa. "So," she said, settling into the chair beside my bed. "That was scary." But you're okay now. That's what matters." She pulled out her phone and I watched her scroll through something, probably the photos she'd just taken. "You know, you're really lucky you have such good insurance. Did you know your plan covers almost everything?" There it was, the opening move. In my first life, I'd just nodded, clueless. I'd agreed that yes, I was lucky. I'd had no idea she was already planning how to exploit it. "I know," I said carefully. "Dad's company has great benefits." "Yeah," she bit her lip, a gesture I'd once thought meant she was worried. Now I knew it meant she was calculating. "You know, insurance is so complicated, all the paperwork and everything." "I guess." "I mean, you're so young. You probably don't even understand half of it, Tissy." "Probably not," I agreed. I could see her relaxing, thinking I was the same naive little sister I'd been before. The one who'd trust her implicitly. The one who'd never suspect that her own family would betray her. She stayed for another hour, making small talk, checking her phone. Eventually, she left with a kiss on my forehead and a promise to visit tomorrow. The moment she was gone, I pressed the call button for the nurse. "Could you please make sure my medical records are marked as private?" I asked when she came in. "I don't want anyone accessing them without my explicit permission." The nurse looked surprised. "They already are, honey. That's standard HIPAA protocol. I mean, my family too. I don't want anyone, even family members, to be able to see them without me present." Her expression shifted to concern. "Is everything okay?" I value my privacy." "Of course, I'll make a note in your file." She patted my hand. "You're very mature for 23, thinking about these things." If only she knew, but it was too late for this round. Melissa already had photos of my charts, my insurance information, probably my medical history from the admission paperwork. The lock I'd just requested would help going forward, but she already had what she needed to start. I lay back in the hospital bed, my mind racing. In my first life, I hadn't discovered the fraud until years later, when the damage was already catastrophic. The insurance companies had investigated, but the trail was muddied. Melissa had been careful. She'd used cash for some treatments, mixed up the claims, made it look like honest mistakes. She'd claimed I'd given her permission to use my insurance in an emergency. She'd gotten away with it because I'd had no proof, no evidence, no way to demonstrate that I hadn't known what she was doing. This time would be different. This time I would document everything, build a case, wait for her to dig herself in so deep that not baites. Even mom and dad could pretend she was innocent. And then I would bury her. I went home the next day to the small apartment I'd shared with my roommate, Kayla. Another detail I'd forgotten from my first life. In 3 months, Kayla would move out to live with her boyfriend, and I'd struggle with the full rent. Eventually, I'd have to move back in with my parents, which was when Melissa's fraud would really accelerate. Living at home had made it easy for her to steal mail, intercept bills, keep me in the dark. But that wasn't going to happen this time. "You okay?" Kayla asked as I settled onto the couch. "You seem different." "Just thinking about stuff," I said. "Hey, when you move in with Brandon, I want to keep this place." "Think you could stay on the lease? I'll cover your half of the rent, but I need someone on it with me." She blinked. "How did you know I was thinking about moving in with Brandon?" "We've been keeping it quiet." "Damn. You get this look when you talk about him, I just guessed." "Wow. Yeah, actually, we were going to tell you next month. And yeah, I can stay on the lease if you want. Are you sure you can afford it, though?" That was the question. In my first life, I couldn't. But in my first life, I'd been working as a receptionist at a law firm, making barely enough to survive. I'd stayed at that job for 3 years before getting fired for excessive sick days, sick days caused by the stress of medical debt and undiagnosed illness. This time, I knew things. I knew which stocks would boom. I knew which startups would get bought out. I knew which cryptocurrencies would explode before they crashed. I had 12 years of future knowledge in my head, and I was going to use every bit of it. I'll figure it out, I told Kayla. Over the next week, as I recovered, I opened investment accounts. Started small. I didn't have much capital, but I had something better than capital. I had certainty. I knew Bitcoin was about to jump. I knew Tesla was undervalued. I knew which tech companies would triple their stock price in the next 6 months. I invested carefully, nothing so dramatic that it would draw attention. But enough. And I watched Melissa. She called every day to check on me, her voice dripping with false concern. She came over with soup, with magazines, with DVDs of movies she thought I'd like, playing the perfect older sister. Meanwhile, I tracked my insurance claims online. Set up alerts, created a spreadsheet. 2 weeks after my appendectomy, the first fraudulent claim appeared. Physical therapy sessions for chronic back pain. 6 sessions at $200 each. Claimed under my name, my insurance, my patient ID. But I'd never gone to physical therapy. I didn't have back pain. Melissa did. I took screenshots, downloaded the claim details, saved everything to a cloud drive that I encrypted with a password she could never guess. Then I called my insurance company. "Hi, I'm calling about a claim I don't recognize," I said, trying to sound confused rather than angry. "It says I had physical therapy sessions, but I never went to physical therapy." The customer service rep pulled up my account. It says here the sessions were at Wellness First Rehabilitation Center. Are you sure you didn't go there?" "Positive. I don't even know where that is." "Well, it's possible someone used your information by mistake. Let me flag this for investigation." "Wait, is that common? Someone using my information?" "Not really, but it happens. Clerical errors mostly." "Don't worry, we'll sort it out." I thanked her and hung up, satisfied. The flag was planted. The investigation had started, even if they didn't know it yet. But I wasn't going to push too hard too fast. That would spook Melissa, make her more careful. No, I needed her confident. I needed her to think she was getting away with it. So I waited. A month later, Melissa called. "Hey, Jenny, I was wondering if you could do me a favor." "Sure, what's up?" "I have a doctor's appointment next week, but my insurance is being weird. Could I borrow your insurance card?" "Just for one visit. I'll pay you back for any copay." My blood ran cold. In my first life, this was how it had escalated. She'd asked to borrow my insurance, and stupid, trusting 23-year-old me had said yes, thinking she meant for one emergency visit. Thinking she'd pay me back. She never did, and that one visit became dozens. "I don't think that's legal," I said carefully. "Oh, it's fine. We're sisters. It's basically the same thing." "But it's insurance fraud, Melissa." Silence on the other end. Then a laugh, bright and dismissive. "Don't be dramatic. It's one visit. Everyone does stuff like this." "I'd rather not." "Seriously, I'm your sister, Jenny. I was there for you when you had surgery. I stayed overnight at the hospital." The manipulation was so transparent now, with the lens of my future knowledge, the guilt tripping, the expectation that I owed her. "I'm sorry," I said firmly. I'm not comfortable with it." Another silence, this one colder. "Fine, whatever. I guess I'll figure something else out." She hung up. I sat staring at my phone, my heart pounding. That was different. In my first life, I'd caved. I'd given her the card, and she'd used it for 6 months before I even asked for it back. Now she'd have to work harder, steal smarter, and every time she did, I'd be watching. The fraudulent claims continued, but they changed tactics. Now they were appearing at clinics I'd actually visited, but for services I'd never received. An upgraded lab panel here, an additional scan there, a prescription I'd never picked up. Melissa had gotten more creative. She was probably calling the clinics, pretending to be me, authorizing additional services. Or maybe she was forging authorization forms. Either way, it was harder to prove fraud when the services were bundled with my legitimate visits. But I documented everything. Every claim, every date, every service. I also started recording my conversations with Melissa. My phone had a recording app, and I made sure to casually mention my health, my appointments, my treatments every time we talked, creating a verbal record of what I'd actually done versus what was being claimed. Meanwhile, I was making money. My investments were paying off exactly as I'd known they would. Bitcoin hit $40,000. Tesla stock split and soared. I was careful selling small amounts, never enough to draw IRS attention, but enough to build a cushion. Enough to hire a lawyer when I needed one. By month 3, I had 15 fraudulent claims documented, over $8,000 in false charges to my insurance. The insurance company had investigated a few of them, but closed the cases as clerical errors. They had no idea it was systematic. They had no idea it was family. Melissa, meanwhile, was getting bolder. She'd started bringing David to family dinners, where he'd casually mention his long hours at the hospital and their mounting bills. Mom and Dad would make sympathetic noises. Melissa would sigh and say they were managing, but it was hard. And then she'd look at me. "You're so lucky you don't have to worry about money," she said one Sunday over pot roast. "Living in that cheap apartment, no kids, no responsibilities." "I have responsibilities," I said mildly. "You know what I mean, real adult stuff. David and I are drowning in student loans and rent, and now with the baby coming." She was 5 months pregnant now, starting to show. Mom cooed over the bump. Dad talked about becoming a grandfather. Everyone was so happy. No one noticed how Melissa's eyes kept sliding to me, calculating. After dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "What's up?" "I know you said no about the insurance card thing, and I respect that. But I was thinking, what if we shared medical care? Like, you could come to my appointments with me and we could both get checked out. My OBGYN is amazing, and she could probably help you with your irregular periods." I didn't have irregular periods. I'd never mentioned having irregular periods, but apparently Melissa was planning to claim I did. "I don't need a gynecologist right now," I said. "But thanks." "Are you sure? Because I was thinking we could make it a sister bonding thing, both of us getting our annual exams together." She wanted me there so she could claim services for both of us, muddy the waters, make it look like we'd legitimately shared appointments. Smart. "I have my own doctor," I said. "But I appreciate you thinking of me." Her smile tightened. "You've been really distant lately." "I've just been busy." "With what? You're still working at that law firm, right? As a receptionist?" The condescension in her voice was thick. In my first life, I'd internalized it. Believed that, yes, I was just a receptionist, just a screw-up, just the lesser sister. Now it rolled off me like water. "Actually, I'm looking at other opportunities," I said. "I've been doing some investing." Her eyebrows rose. "Investing? You?" "Yeah, it's going pretty well." "Honey, you barely understand your own checking account. Don't fall for some pyramid scheme." "It's not a pyramid scheme. It's legitimate stock trading." She laughed, actually laughed. "Okay, sure. Well, don't spend all your money on it. You'll need savings." I smiled and didn't answer. Month 6, 10 more fraudulent claims. Total fraud value, $15,000. I'd also made $50,000 in the stock market. I quit my receptionist job and got hired at a financial firm as a junior analyst. It raised eyebrows. I had no formal finance education. But I'd spent my free time learning everything I could, and I'd proven my worth with my portfolio performance. The hiring manager had been impressed enough to take a chance. Melissa was not impressed. "You're making a mistake," she said when I told her. "That receptionist job was stable. This finance thing is going to blow up in your face." "Maybe, but I want to try." "God, you're so impulsive. This is exactly why you need someone to look after you." "I can look after myself." She gave me a pitying look. "We'll see." But I could see the worry beneath the condescension. I was supposed to be the screw-up little sister, the one who stayed small and manageable, the one she could control. Instead, I was growing, getting stronger. getting harder to manipulate. It was making her nervous. Good. Month 9, 23 fraudulent claims, $23,000 in fraud. Melissa had her baby, a beautiful boy named Tyler. Mom and Dad were over the moon. I went to the hospital with flowers and gifts and congratulated her, and I watched as she filled out the hospital paperwork, saw her hesitate over the insurance section, saw her glance at me. "What?" I asked. "Nothing, just, this is expensive, even with insurance." "I'm sure you'll be fine. David's still a resident, we're barely scraping by." I waited. "I don't suppose, no, never mind." "What?" "Could you loan me some money, just for the hospital bills? I'll pay you back." In my first life, I'd given her $5,000 I didn't have, putting it on a credit card. She never paid me back. Instead, she'd used my insurance to claim extra postpartum care and stuck me with those bills too. "I don't have much to loan," I lied, "but I could give you $1,000 as a gift for Tyler." Her face fell. $1,000? That's really generous. But the bills are going to be at least $10,000. "Then you should talk to the hospital about a payment plan." "Jenny, I'm your sister. Don't you want to help me?" "I am helping you. I'm giving you $1,000. God, you're being so selfish after everything I've done for you." I met her eyes. "What have you done for me, Melissa?" She blinked, taken aback. "I've always been there for you. I stayed with you at the hospital when you had your appendix out. And I'm giving you $1,000 for your baby. I think we're even." She opened her mouth, closed it. Finally, she said, "Fine, thank you for the $1,000. But her eyes were cold. Month 12, 31 fraudulent claims, $34,000 in fraud. My portfolio was worth $200,000. I'd moved to a better apartment, still shared with Kayla, but in a nicer building. I'd bought a car. I'd started dressing better, eating better, living better. And Melissa was starting to panic. I could see it in the way she looked at me now, like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve, like I'd stopped following the script. "How are you affording all this?" she demanded one day when she came over. "Your apartment, your car, your clothes. Did you rob a bank?" "I told you, investing. Nobody makes this much money investing, not in a year. What are you really doing?" "Really investing." "Are you doing something illegal? Because if you are, you need to tell me. I don't want you to get hurt." The false concern was almost laughable. She didn't care if I got hurt. She cared that I was out of her control. "I'm doing everything legally," I said. "I'm just good at it." "Since when are you good at anything?" The mask had slipped. The venom was showing. "I guess you don't know me as well as you thought," I said softly. She stared at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Fear that I wasn't the person she'd thought. Fear that I knew something, but she couldn't ask. Because if she asked, she'd have to acknowledge what she'd been doing. So she left, and I added another note to my files. Year 2, 58 fraudulent claims, $67,000 in fraud. The insurance company was starting to notice. They'd opened another investigation, this one more serious. They'd called me in for an interview. I went, playing the confused victim perfectly. "I don't understand why their clients are so many claims I don't recognize," I told the investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia. "I keep track of my appointments, and half of these aren't mine. Do you share your insurance information with anyone?" "No, never." "Has anyone ever asked to use your insurance?" I hesitated as if considering. "My sister asked once about a year ago, but I said no." Patricia's eyes sharpened. "Your sister?" "Yeah, she was having insurance issues and she wanted to borrow my card. But I told her that wasn't legal." "What's your sister's name?" "Melissa Chen. Well, Melissa Parker now. She's married." Patricia wrote it down. "And you're certain you didn't let her use your insurance?" "Positive." Has she had access to your insurance card or documentation? She might have seen it when I was in the hospital. She stayed with me after my appendectomy, but I don't think. She wouldn't. I let my voice trail off, the perfect picture of a sister who didn't want to believe the worst. Patricia looked at me with something like pity. We'll investigate. In the meantime, I'm placing a fraud alert on your account. Any new claims will require verification. Thank you. I left that meeting feeling the pieces clicking into place. The investigation took 6 months. 6 months during which Melissa tried 3 more fraudulent claims, all of which were flagged and denied. 6 months during which she got more and more desperate. Something's wrong with my insurance, she complained at a family dinner. They keep denying everything. Did you call them? Mom asked. Yeah, and they said something about a fraud alert. It's ridiculous. I think Jenny's insurance got hacked or something. All eyes turned to me. What? I said, feigning surprise. Your insurance? Did you know there's a fraud alert on it? Oh, yeah, the insurance company said there were some weird claims, so they put an alert on the account. What kind of weird claims? No, services I never got. They said it happens sometimes. Melissa's face had gone pale. Did they find out who did it? They're investigating. The dinner conversation moved on, but Melissa barely spoke. She kept looking at me, and I kept avoiding her gaze. After dinner, she grabbed my arm. We need to talk. About what? About the insurance thing. Did you tell them I asked to use your card? They asked if anyone had ever requested to use it. I had to answer honestly. Jesus Christ, Jenny, do you know what you've done? I answered their questions. What are you so worried about? She released me like I'd burned her. Nothing. I'm not worried about anything. But she was. God, she was terrified. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Patricia. Ms. Chen, I wanted to update you on our investigation. What did you find? We've identified significant fraudulent activity on your account. Claims totaling over $67,000 that you did not authorize or receive. We've traced the pattern, and we believe the fraud was committed by someone with close access to your information. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. Who? Your sister, Melissa Parker. What? No, that can't be right. We have evidence that she was present at multiple clinics where services were claimed under your name but provided to her. We also have phone records showing she called these clinics impersonating you. And we found documentation she forged with your signature. I was silent, letting the shock sink in. Ms. Chen, are you still there? Yes. I can't believe this. I understand this is difficult, but we're prepared to move forward with pressing charges. This is insurance fraud on a significant scale. However, we need your cooperation. Of course, whatever you need. We'll be referring this to law enforcement. You may be asked to testify. I will. I need time to process this. Take the time you need. We'll be in touch. Hung up and sat in my apartment, staring at nothing. It was done. The trap had sprung. 12 years of future knowledge had led to this moment. Melissa was going to pay. The police came 3 days later. They arrested Melissa at her home while David was at work and Tyler was at daycare. Mom called me, hysterical. They arrested your sister for insurance fraud. They're saying she used your insurance. I know, Mom. The insurance company told me. This is a mistake. This has to be a mistake. Melissa would never. Mom, they have evidence. What evidence? Did you tell them something? Did you accuse her? I answered their questions honestly. They asked if anyone had ever requested to use my insurance, and I told them Melissa had asked once. Oh my God. You got your own sister arrested. The accusation hit like I knew it would. In my first life, this was the dynamic. Melissa could do no wrong. I was the problem child, the troublemaker, but this time I had the truth on my side. Mom, if she didn't do anything wrong, the evidence will show that. But the insurance company says they have proof she committed fraud. I can't believe you're doing this to your own family. I'm not doing anything. I'm the victim here, Mom. She used my insurance without permission. For what? A few doctor's appointments? You're going to send her to jail over that? It was $67,000 worth of fraud, Mom. That's not a few appointments. Silence. Then does own. Your father and I are very disappointed in you. She hung up. I stood there, the phone in my hand, and felt the old familiar pain. Even now, even with evidence. They chose her, but it didn't matter anymore. Because I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their love. I just needed justice. The case moved quickly. Melissa's lawyer tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, that she'd thought she had permission, that the paperwork was confusing. But the evidence was damning. Phone records, forged signatures, testimony from clinic staff who remembered her impersonating me, security footage from medical offices showing her receiving services claimed under my name. The prosecution offered a plea deal, plead guilty to insurance fraud, pay restitution, serve 2 years probation, and perform community service. Melissa refused. I'm going to fight this, she told Mom and Dad at a family meeting I wasn't invited to but heard about anyway. Jenny is lying. She's always been jealous of me and now she's trying to destroy my life. They wanted to believe her. I could see it in the way they looked at me at Sunday dinners, the ones I still attended out of spite. The way they whispered when I entered rooms. The way they'd grown cold. But the trial date approached and the evidence mounted and slowly their certainty began to crack. Dad called me one night. Jenny, if you drop this, we can all move on. Melissa made a mistake, but she has a baby. She has a family. Don't destroy that. She destroyed my credit, Dad. She destroyed my medical history. She could have destroyed my ability to get health insurance for the rest of my life. It was just insurance. It was fraud. It was betrayal. She's my sister and she stole from me. Can't you forgive her? In my first life, I might have. I might have crumbled under the pressure, let her off, taken the high road. But I'd lived that life. I knew where forgiveness led. It led to an early grave, alone and broken. No, I said. I can't. He hung up. The trial lasted 3 days. I testified on day 2. The prosecutor led me through the timeline, when I'd discovered the fraud, what I'd told the insurance company, how I'd felt. And the defendant is your sister? She asked. Yes. When you first discovered this fraud, what did you think? I didn't want to believe it. I kept thinking there had to be another explanation. But the evidence convinced you? Yes. How did that make you feel? I looked at Melissa, sitting at the defense table. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Betrayed, I said quietly. I trusted her, I loved her, and she used that trust to steal from me. Melissa's lawyer cross-examined, trying to paint me as vindictive, jealous, opportunistic, suggesting that maybe I'd given Melissa permission and then regretted it, insinuating that I was enjoying the attention of being a victim. But the evidence didn't care about narrative. The evidence was cold and clear. On day 3, the jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty. Sentencing came a month later. The judge was not lenient. Ms. Parker, you committed systematic fraud against your own sister over a period of 2 years. You forged documents. You impersonated her. You stole over $67,000 from an insurance company and damaged your sister's financial standing and medical record. This was not a moment of weakness. This was calculated, ongoing criminal behavior. Melissa was crying, meowing. David sat in the gallery holding Sinai. Tyler, his face ashen. I sentence you to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. You will also pay full restitution to both the insurance company and your sister for damages to her credit and medical history. The gavel came down. Melissa was led away in handcuffs, still crying. Mom stood up and pointed at me. Are you happy now? You've destroyed your sister's life. She has a baby. What's going to happen to Tyler? David will take care of him, I said calmly. That's what parents do. You're a monster. I'm the victim, Mom, remember? She turned and walked out, Dad following. Neither of them looked back. In the hallway, David approached me. He looked exhausted, 10 years older than he had at the trial's start. I didn't know, he said, about any of it. I thought the bills were legitimate. I know. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. What she did was wrong. I nodded. Tyler's going to grow up with a mother in prison because of this. Tyler's going to grow up with a mother who's a felon because she committed felonies, I corrected. That's not on me. He flinched but didn't argue, just walked away. I stood in the courthouse hallway, alone, and felt the weight of everything settle on my shoulders. Justice, revenge, victory. It tasted like ashes. Melissa served 14 months before being released for good behavior. By then, I'd built my investment portfolio to over $2 million. I'd been promoted twice at my firm. I'd bought a condo. I'd also started dating Marcus, a lawyer I'd met through work. He was kind and funny and had no connection to my family drama. He didn't know about the rebirth. He just knew that I'd been hurt by family and had come out stronger. When Melissa got out, she was required to stay with Mom and Dad as part of her probation. David had divorced her while she was inside. Turns out discovering your wife is a felon who committed fraud is a deal breaker. He had full custody of Tyler. I heard through the grapevine that Melissa was working at a grocery store, the only place that would hire her with a record, that she was depressed, medicated, broken. Part of me felt satisfaction. The part that had died alone in a county hospital, betrayed and abandoned. But another part, the part that remembered loving my sister before I knew what she was capable of, felt sad. Not sad enough to reach out. But sad. 2 years after the trial, I got a letter. The handwriting was Melissa's. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. Dear Jenny, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your attention or your forgiveness, but I need to say this. I'm sorry. I was desperate and selfish, and I convinced myself that what I was doing wasn't really wrong. You had insurance, and I didn't, and it seemed unfair. I told myself I'd pay you back. I told myself you'd never notice. I told myself so many lies that I started believing them. I destroyed your trust. I destroyed our relationship. I destroyed my own life. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to forget. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did was wrong, that I'm sorry, that I think about it every day. I hope you're happy. I hope you're successful. I hope you have the life you deserve. I'm sorry I tried to take that from you. Melissa, I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and went on with my day. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday I'd find it in myself to forgive, but not today. Today, I had a meeting with a venture capital firm about investing in a startup I knew would change the industry. Today, I had dinner plans with Marcus. Today, I had a whole life ahead of me, a life Melissa had tried to steal once and that I'd fought to reclaim. A life that was mine. 5 years after the trial, I married Marcus in a small ceremony. Mom and Dad came, stiffly, still not quite forgiven me, but unwilling to miss the wedding. Melissa wasn't invited. 10 years after, I had my first child, a daughter named Sophie. She had my eyes and Marcus's smile, and when I held her, I thought about the future she'd have, the advantages, the love, the protection. I thought about how my rebirth had given me the chance to build this life, to escape the trap that had killed me before. And I thought about Melissa, who'd tried to use me as a stepping stone and ended up in a pit instead. The insurance fraud investigation had found her because I'd made sure they would, because I'd documented everything, built the case, created a trail that even the most incompetent investigator couldn't miss. I'd used my knowledge of the future to destroy her, and I'd do it again because some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. Some betrayals deserve justice, and I'd made sure she got exactly what she deserved. 15 years after the trial, I ran into Melissa at a coffee shop. She'd aged hard, lines around her eyes grays. In her hair, a weariness in her posture that spoke of years of struggle. She saw me and froze. Jenny? Melissa. We stared at each other across the coffee shop, a universe of history between us. You look good, she finally said. Thank you. I heard you got married, had a kid. 2 kids now, Sophie and James. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's wonderful. How are you? I'm managing, still at the grocery store. It's not much, but it's honest work. That's good. Silence. Tyler asks about you sometimes, she said. He's 9 now, smart kid, looks like David. Does he know about everything? Not the details, but yeah, he knows I went to prison. David told him it was because I made bad choices. That's fair. He wants to meet you someday, his aunt. I felt something twist in my chest. Maybe someday. I understand if you don't want to. I wanted you to know he exists, that he's a good kid, that he didn't deserve to have a mother like me. He deserves to have a mother who learned from her mistakes. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. I did learn, for whatever that's worth. I learned that family isn't something you use, it's something you treasure. And I threw it away. Yes, I said quietly, you did. I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted you to know I'm sorry, truly sorry. And that I'm glad you're happy. You deserve to be happy. She turned to leave, then stopped. I think about it sometimes. How different things could have been if I'd just been honest. If I'd asked for help instead of stealing. If I'd been the sister you deserved instead of the one you got. Me too, I admitted. She nodded and walked out of the coffee shop, and I watched her go, and I realized something. The revenge had been perfect. The justice had been served. The scales had been balanced. But it didn't feel the way I'd thought it would. It didn't feel triumphant. It didn't feel like vindication. It felt empty. Because at the end of it all, I'd won everything and lost the one thing that had once mattered most, my sister. That night, I told Marcus about the rebirth. He listened without interrupting as I explained about dying at 35, waking up at 23, spending 2 years building a case against Melissa. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Do you regret it? He finally asked. Which part? Any of it. I thought about that. About the cold satisfaction of watching her get arrested. The grim victory of the guilty verdict. The hollow feeling of the years after. No, I said. She deserved what she got. She committed fraud. She stole from me. She would have destroyed my life if I hadn't stopped her. But I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I'd tried something different. If I'd confronted her directly, early. If I'd given her a chance to make it right. Do you think she would have? I remembered Melissa's face when I'd said no to loaning her money. The cold calculation when she'd asked to borrow my insurance card. The easy lies she'd told. No, I admitted, she would have kept going, kept stealing, kept using me until there was nothing left. Then you did what you had to do. I know. But it still hurts. Yeah, it still hurts. He pulled me close and I let him hold me while I cried for the sister I'd loved, the sister I'd lost, the sister who'd never really existed except in my naive imagination. 20 years after the trial, I got another letter. Dear Jenny, I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months. I'm writing because I wanted to ask you something before I go. Can we talk? Just once? Face to face. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just want to see you one more time, to say the things I should have said 20 years ago. Please. Melissa. I held the letter for a week before deciding. Then I drove to her apartment, a small, shabby place in a bad part of town, and knocked. She answered, and I barely recognized her. Thin to the point of emaciation, skin yellow, eyes sunken. The cancer had eaten her alive. Jenny, she whispered. You came. I came. She led me inside to a couch that had seen better days, and we sat. Thank you, she said. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. I understand. After everything? Yeah. She took a breath that rattled in her chest. I wanted to tell you that I don't blame you for what happened. I know I did it first. I was angry, and I told myself you were vindictive, cruel, that you'd ruined my life. I heard. But the truth is, I ruined my own life. I made the choices. I committed the fraud. I betrayed you, and everything that came after was consequence, not punishment. I said nothing. I've thought a lot about why I did it, she continued, and I realized it was because I was jealous of you. That surprised me. Jealous? Of me? You were always so easy. Everything came easily to you. Friends, happiness, optimism. You didn't have to work for people to like you. You didn't have to prove yourself. That's not true. Maybe not. But that's how it felt. And when I was struggling with money, with David's debt, with the pressure of being perfect, I looked at you with your good insurance and your simple life, and I resented it. I told myself you had it easy so you wouldn't miss what I took. I wasn't easy, Melissa. I was just young. I know that now, but then I convinced myself that you owed me. That because I was older, because I'd been there first, because I'd struggled more, I deserved what you had. That's not how family works. No, it's not. She coughed, a deep hacking sound. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did, that I've spent 20 years living with the consequences, that I'm sorry. Looked at her, this dying shell of the sister I'd once loved, and felt a wave of complicated emotions. Anger, pity, sadness, relief. I forgive you, I said. Her eyes widened. What? I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying this weight. I'm tired of the anger and the bitterness and the hollow victory, so I forgive you. She started to cry, silent tears running down her wasted face. Thank you. But that doesn't mean I forget. And it doesn't mean I regret what I did. You committed fraud. You stole from me. You got exactly what you deserved, Pete. I know. And if I had to do it over again, I'd make the same choices. I know that too. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, she said, Tyler turned out okay. Despite everything, he's in college now, studying engineering. He's a good kid. I'm glad. David did a good job with him, better than I could have. Maybe. No, maybe about it. I was a terrible mother. I was so consumed with my own problems, my own pain, that I couldn't see what I had. A lot of people make that mistake. Yeah, but most people don't go to prison for it. A ghost of a smile crossed her face, and for a moment I saw the Melissa I remembered from before everything went wrong. The Melissa who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd defended me from bullies in middle school, who'd helped me practice my lines for the school play. That Melissa had been real too, before the desperation and the fraud and the betrayal. I should go, I said, standing. Will you come back? I hesitated. I don't know. Okay, that's fair. At the door, I turned back. Melissa? Yeah. I hope, I hope the end is peaceful. She smiled, a real smile this time. Thank you, and Jenny, I'm proud of you, of who you became, of the life you built. Thanks. I left and didn't look back. Melissa died 3 months later. David called to tell me. She asked me to give you this, he said, handing me an envelope at the small memorial service. Inside was a letter and a check for $67,000. Dear Jenny, I sold everything I had to write this check. It's not complete restitution. There's no way to repay the damage to your credit, your medical history, your peace of mind, but it's what I can offer. I want you to know that I never spent the money I stole on anything frivolous. Every dollar went to medical care I needed, bills I couldn't pay, survival. It doesn't excuse what I did. But I wanted you to know I wasn't stealing for luxury. I was stealing because I was drowning. That still doesn't make it right. I'm leaving this world with so many regrets, but my biggest regret is losing you. Not because of what you could give me, but because you were my sister and I loved you and I destroyed that. I hope someday you can remember me as more than the person who betrayed you. I hope you can remember the good parts too. The sister who loved you, even if she showed it poorly. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Live the life I stole from you in my first theft and that you fought to reclaim. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. I'm sorry. I love you. Goodbye. Melissa. I stood at her grave with Marcus beside me, Sophie and James fidgeting in their funeral clothes, and I cried. Not for the monster who'd committed fraud, not for the criminal who'd gone to prison, but for the sister I'd loved and lost who'd been both victim and villain, who'd made terrible choices and paid terribly for them. Are you okay? Marcus asked softly. Yeah, I said, wiping my eyes. I think I am. That night, I had a dream. I was in the hospital room again, 23 years old, waking up after my appendectomy. But this time, when Melissa reached for my medical chart, I stopped her. Don't, I said. She looked at me startled. Don't what? I know what you're planning. I know you want to use my insurance. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And I'm telling you right now, if you need help, ask me. If you need money, we'll figure something out. But don't steal from me, don't betray me, because I love you and I want to help you, but not like this. In the dream, Melissa's face crumpled. I'm drowning, Jenny. David and I can't afford. So ask. Ask mom and dad. Ask me. Set up a GoFundMe. Get a payment plan. Do something legal. Do something that doesn't destroy us. I'm scared. I know, but fear isn't an excuse for fraud. She nodded slowly. Okay. Okay, I'll ask. I'll find another way. And in the dream, she did. And we stayed sisters. And I never had to become the person who destroyed her. I woke up with tears on my face. 25 years after the trial, I'm 48 years old. I have a successful career, a loving husband, 2 wonderful children. I have financial security, good health, a beautiful home. I have everything I fought for, everything I reclaimed when I came back to this life. But I also have a locked drawer in my desk with 2 letters from my dead sister and a photo from when we were kids, arms around each other, smiling at the camera like the future was full of nothing but possibility. Sometimes I open that drawer and look at the photo and wonder about the choice I made. I could have handled it differently. I could have confronted Melissa directly, given her a chance to make it right, tried intervention instead of investigation. Maybe it would have worked. Maybe she would have stopped. Maybe we'd still be sisters. Or maybe she would have kept stealing, kept lying, kept destroying my life until there was nothing left. Maybe the only way to stop her was the way I did. I'll never know. What I do know is this. I was given a second chance at life and I used it to protect myself, to build a future, to ensure that I didn't end up dying alone and broke and broken. I used it to make sure that the person who betrayed me faced justice. And if that makes me cold, if that makes me ruthless, if that makes me less than the forgiving saint some people think I should be, so be it. I survived. I thrived. And that has to be enough. My daughter Sophie is 21 now, the same age I was when I came back. Sometimes I look at her and think about the choices ahead of her, the trust she'll place in people, the ways she might be hurt, and I want to warn her, want to tell her that even family can betray you, that even love can be a weapon, that she needs to be careful, vigilant, protected. But I also want her to trust, to love, to be open to the world in ways I can't be anymore. So instead, I tell her this: be kind, but keep receipts. She laughs, thinking I'm joking. I'm not. Because I learned the hard way that documentation is power, that evidence is protection, that the difference between being a victim and being a victor is often just a well-maintained spreadsheet and a willingness to use it. I learned that from Melissa, and I'll never forget. 30 years after the trial, I'm 53. Marcus and I are planning early retirement. The kids are grown and successful. My investment portfolio has grown beyond my wildest dreams, or rather, exactly to the dreams I had when I came back, armed with future knowledge. I'm living the life I fought for, and I rarely think about Melissa anymore. But today is different. Today, I got a message on Facebook from someone I don't know. Hi, Aunt Jenny. This is Tyler Parker. I know we've never met, but I wanted to reach out. I'm getting married next month, and I'd really like it if you could come. I know there's history between you and my mom, but I'd like to meet you, to know you, if you're willing. I stare at the message for a long time. Tyler, Melissa's son. 9 years old the last time she mentioned him. 31 now, getting married, wanting to know his aunt. The aunt who sent his mother to prison. I could ignore this message, could pretend I never saw it, could let that whole chapter of my life stay closed. But then I think about the photo in my drawer, about the sister I lost, about the complicated tangle of love and betrayal and justice and regret. And I type back, "Hi, Tyler. I'd be honored to come to your wedding. Let's meet for coffee first so we can talk. There are some things you should know, because maybe, just maybe, the next generation doesn't have to carry all the weight of the last one's mistakes. Maybe Tyler deserves to know his aunt, the real one, complicated and flawed and human. Maybe this is where the healing actually begins. Or maybe I'm just getting soft in my old age." Either way, I hit send and wait to see what comes next. Because that's the thing about revenge, about justice, about the choices we make when we're given second chances. The consequences ripple out long after we think the story is over. And sometimes the ending we fought so hard for turns out to be just another beginning. The end.